First question, tell me one thing you do to create your best year ever.
Oh, yeah. So in order to have the best year ever, historically, I thought it was about setting goals. But I've recently changed to just trying to get 1% better each day. So if I get 1% better each day over 365 days, I'm going to get a lot farther than just setting a goal and hitting the goal. So my mindset is every video gets 1% better. My communication gets 1% better. My network gets 1% better. And that compounds over time to make every year over year, or as they say in the corporate world, yoy, amazing, right? So I'm going to continually do that until I am 6 feet under, my man.
So Travis, I'm all on board with that, but I think there is going to be a segment of the people that say, but how do you do this? Because there's a concept that I love that I sort of created that goes, know, believe, live, in KNOW. So what do you know to be true? What do you believe to be true? But what are you living? And I think this 1% better concept, people know it to be true. People even believe it. They're like, yes, but are you living this? So tactically, because I'm about this life as well, but I'm curious because you've identified the areas 1% better in your network or in your content. But what does that mean as somebody who is creating so much in so many different ways? You sit there and you pop up on LinkedIn and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be 1% better on LinkedIn right now.
I know, it's so vague, right? It's such a guru thing to do, to say like this vast, like just a one size fits all random thing that doesn't really help anybody. So I'm so glad that you want to uncover that. So the way to be 1% better, and this is the way that I live this, is I've completely shifted away from the end result, but rather building the system. So everything needs a system. My content needs a system, right? The system of scripting, recording, editing, publishing, distributing, right? And if I focus on the system as opposed to the goal, the systems that I build get faster. They're able to be given to a team member, or I can give somebody a job. And so instead of worrying about the end result, because the end is the end, it's the end for a reason, right? Then I get to enjoy the process 365 days a year. And yes, I think it's healthy to have goals. But I think that instead of looking at the end result, if you just look at getting 1% better today, that you can make bigger moves, and then you won't quit, right? If I ask you to lose 0.01% of a pound every day, or if I tell you want to lose 15 pounds in a week, you're probably more likely going to succeed at the earlier version, right? So I'm all about systems. How can I make this more efficient? And by making things more efficient, I create more time, I create more opportunity, and I create more efficiencies and systems that allow me to do more, which is what allows me to get 1% better. Does that make sense?
100%. And Travis, you opened up Pandora's box, and we're not going to spend the whole episode on this, but there is one thing that many people, myself included, struggle at the beginning. You hear system scale. This got drilled into my head for years that I was learning from some of the best mentors in the world. And I would feel time guilt when I was working on creating systems and processes for things that I could do with my eyes closed. But let's say it takes me 17 minutes to create an audio podcast and publish it and upload it and do all of that. Well, I'm now sitting there creating an SOP for someone on my team or a virtual assistant to do it for me. And the little bitch voice comes in there and is like, what are you doing spending your time? Is this the most efficient use of your time? And you have to learn that actually the $10,000 hour task is actually the system and the process, and it's completely backwards because you're replacing yourself by doing the thing and documenting the thing that you already know how to do. But you've got to learn that the hard way, typically by not doing your systems and processes until you become a systems and processes person.
Yeah, a system. Okay, so system creating is the least sexiest thing in the world, right? So as a creative person, I just want to be making, but you will find that just making is a bottleneck, right? So by taking one step back, and just when I say system, I just mean like step one, step two. You don't have to build software or use anything fancy. You can use a piece of paper and say, when I'm doing X, what is every step that I hit and in what order? If you just write those down, you now have a system, okay? Which is going to set you back in the present time. But if you can hand that off to somebody and it's crystal clear in how they do something, you now have a basically a handbook for bringing on an employee and having them actually be successful. One of the biggest churns of virtual assistants and team members is that we're not setting them up for success. So by taking 17 minutes to write down that system, that SOP, I'm now clearing up however long that takes over and over and over again. So by one small step back, we take a huge step forward, which clears up more time for us to improve other things, whether that be systematizing, whether that be in-person connections, whether that be dreaming up new businesses. You know what people don't do anymore? People don't daydream. People don't philosophize. We are in an era of what I call, and you know, I know you're a big book reader, but I think people, like, I'm guessing you actually apply some of this information. I know you turned me on to, was it Tiago Forte with his, how he has this, right? So it's not about reading the book. It's about applying the book. And I think we've reached this kind of this heightened state of mental masturbation where it's like people are just like, I'm just going to consume. But do you philosophize about it? Do you think about it? Do you apply it? And that's where the magic happens. It's not, we don't need more information. We need more action. And in order to be able to take more action, you have to clear up time to be able to have those moments. That's why shower thoughts are so important, is because your brain is saying, I don't have to think of anything. I can actually process some of these things I'm thinking about and reading, and you usually have a good idea. Well, we need to have shower thoughts all day long, right? Not just consumption or creation moments. And it's something that I think moves the needle a lot further. And most people, I don't think, have the bandwidth to philosophize or to do critical thinking. So by building those systems, just by thinking, you inherently are going to get 1% better.
All right, so I'm going to yes and this, and I love that you brought this topic up, because what most people don't actually do is have a system and process for how to visualize and daydream. So what does that actually mean? As I look here on my big ass calendar in front of me, one of my daily vitamins. So if I look at my perfect day and there's 10 things that I could do in any day, if I take one of those vitamins, boom, it's great. I could take all 10 or one of them, but it's all things that in my perfect day are there. So creating an idea and visualizing is one of them. And I actually learned this when I did the 75 Hard Mental Toughness program and the overall Live Hard program. And one of the things was visualize for 10 minutes a day. So I put it on my schedule as if it's a checkbox on my get-to-do list. So now there is a process for us. You say, well, where in the world am I going to find time to do this? Well, maybe I'm now going out for a walk, and when I'm walking, instead of listening to a podcast, I'm sitting there with my eyes open and I'm looking around at the nature and I'm hearing sounds, and I go ahead and do that. Another thing that's part of my process, and I learned this from Ed Milet, he calls this possibility projecting. Every Sunday, as part of my routine to look forward, I possibility project in my life, in my business, in my imagination. So I sit there, and similar to journaling or morning pages, there are no rules whatsoever. I just go there and the prompt just says, my life, my business, my imagination. So what this is another drip. So I've got the Sunday drip and I've got the daily drip. And now I'm part of that frequency where, all right, well, I'm going to be putting my son to bed. So I'm just sitting there and hoping he goes to sleep. So what am I doing? Boom, I'm sitting there thinking about, all right, let me work on my vision right now, because now there's an opportunity. I don't have enough time is an excuse a lot of people create, but we always have time. But if something is important enough, you will always create time to make it happen. Therefore, let's start to use our vision a little bit more and say, you know what? Robin Travis said imagination is important and it's fun and it helps me accomplish my dreams. Maybe I should find a way to create a system or a process to allow me to live in that, even just a little bit at a time. And the last thing, Travis, I'm going to add, one book that I really liked about this was James Altucher's Choose Yourself.
Yeah.
And what he talks about is not just writing like one idea a day. I believe he says write 10 or 20 ideas a day, because what I learned at Second City in the humor writing for the Onion course is that you have a 90% success rate of bad ideas to good ideas. So let's just start getting that volume out there so that one or two pieces of gold can get unearthed.
Absolutely. I don't think people give themselves enough chance to be, the writing process starts with a bad first draft. And most people won't allow themselves to get to that bad first draft. So like throwing out ideas and documenting everything, I call it an idea orphanage, right? I have more ideas than I will ever be able to execute in my life, which is why I share so many business ideas on my social media account, is because there's no way I'm going to be able to do them, and just keeping them away from everyone else doesn't do them any good. Hopefully somebody can take it and actually apply it and build themselves something, right? So documenting your ideas is so important. There are no bad ideas in brainstorming. This is a rule, okay? So, going back to unpack a few things you said, I call bullshit on everybody who says they don't have time. Time is like money, and you choose where you spend it, right? So if you really say you don't have time, the question that I have is, then show me your 24-hour schedule, because I guarantee you that I can find time in there to do the thing that you want to do. And then as far as visualization goes, I think visualization is one of the most incredible superpowers that people have that they never use. So when I was 17 and in a punk rock band, I used to go to bed at night and I would visualize myself on a very specific, stage in Chicago, a venue called the Metro. It was like the Mecca for local bands kind of going big. And I would visualize the crowd. I would visualize coming out onto the stage. I would visualize, rocking out. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't very long until I actually experienced that visualization. And, lots of people do this. I think it was Michael Phelps would visualize swimming. And one time he had a goggle malfunction, right, where the water started pouring in and he couldn't see. And all he did was snapped into his visualization, because he already knew what to do, because he had done it so many times in his head, and he still won the race. So my challenge to everybody listening or watching this right now is, part of the visualization process is things that you want to manifest or things that you want to achieve. But I'll put that one inch further. Why don't you start visualizing who you want to be in 5 years and start acting like that now? Okay. So for instance, I don't act like Travis today. I act like Travis in 5 years. What is Travis in 5 years who's already accomplished these things doing? Well, he's creating systems so that he has more free time, so that he can write keynote speeches and stand on stages, right? So that he can be a prolific author and do all these things. So acting as if you already are where you want to be is going to get you there so much more faster. And part of that is realization. Part of that is visualization. And then part of it is really just looking at your time and saying like, okay, so many people tell me they don't have time, but they could tell me everything that happened in the latest hit series TV show. Well, right there, you're trading your time for consumption. Right? You're trading time for something that doesn't serve your goal. So don't bullshit us and tell us that you don't have time. Wake up an hour earlier, stay up an hour later. It's how you decide to create your own destiny. It's not about not having time, because we all have the same. You can't buy it. You can't make it. We all have the same. So I think it's a bunk excuse to say, I don't have time. And the last question I'll just ask people is, well, how bad do you want it? Because if I want something bad enough, I'll stay up all night to work on it.
You're on such a frequency because I believe last week I published a podcast around creating your 5-year vision, which was inspired by the book Be Your Future Self Now by Benjamin Hardy. And I think one thing I often quote or drop a lot of books that I read that apply to these things. But you talked about it at the top. We're not reading just for reading's sake. It's reading for application's sake. So in that book, it said, be your future self now. Write a letter to you as if you're your future self 5 years from now. I actually did it. And this is the separator, because most people, when given it, they're like, all right, I got it. No, go and do the thing about the book that we read, because that's why we're reading the book. And Travis, I didn't even get to an intro for this episode yet, and I'm totally cool with it because you're literally leading me to where we're going. So the next question that I have for you, and you actually teed this up, what is one of your superpowers? Because you are a master creator, and there's so many things about you that I admire and the world admires. But what is one of your superpowers?
I think my superpower is that I am unafraid to fail, meaning that I will try anything I'm excited about. And even if it doesn't do well, I am okay with that. So I don't think that anybody can fail. I think you need to take on the identity of a scientist, right? I've never met a scientist who told me, well, I'm a failed scientist, because all scientists do is fail. They're testing to get to a result. And some projects take 7 years just to find one molecule, right? But if you think of everything you do as an experiment, then you cannot fail because you're just testing things. So I'll start a business on a whim and test it out. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, I don't care if someone says, oh, that didn't work. I just say, yeah, great. It didn't work. Now I know what not to do. Let's move on to the next thing. So I think by my superpower is that, I have this kind of, I don't really care what people think of me as much as I care what I think of me. And if I don't try something that I'm excited about, I will think less of me, less than if I do it and it doesn't work, right? So I challenge everybody to try as many things as possible and, give it a good effort. But if it doesn't work, that's not a reflection of you. It's actually a reflection of how willing you are to test new things. And in my life, those tests have always brought me very interesting things. For example, I have a company called Poddex, okay? It was a complete accident, was a complete test, all right, that went to a 6-figure business. It was different than what I was trying to do at the time. But had I not been willing to go, I'm going to try this out, put it out there with a chance that it fails, then I wouldn't have that aspect of my business, right? So everything you do from this point forward, all you have to do is tell yourself, it's okay, I'm learning. It's okay, I'm testing, and then you cannot fail. But people are so afraid that the thing they're going to try isn't going to work that they never even take a step towards it, and they'll never know. And that's one of the biggest things that pushed me to work so hard and do my own thing is that I visualize, I'm a visualizer. I visualize laying on my deathbed riddled with cancer. And the thing that really bothered me the most in that visualization was that I never really went for it to see if I could build my own empire. And after I had that realization, I thought, I don't want to have that feeling. I want to go down thinking, I tried everything and I had a damn good time doing it. So just listen, you can do this by simply saying, I am simply testing and there is no failure.
Oh, I love that so much. And Travis, you and I both being creators, one of the things that I teach, and I know you do as well, and maybe not in these exact words, is creating imperfect content. Because when we look at what stops people from building their brands and publishing content, it's, I've never done this before. I don't know what to say. I don't like the sound of my voice. Insert whatever self-limiting belief that is out there. But when you can get to the point where you're like, it's not actually about the content, it's about the action. And the analogy I always give that I love that resonates with me is a painter doesn't paint only to sell a painting. A painter paints because they love to paint. But so many people in the world as a whole puts the metric of success on the selling of the painting without realizing that the reason we started to paint in the first place is that we love to do it. And Travis, this actually transitions me to the next question that I know is so important to both you and I. So let's talk about freedom. And how do you see personal freedom and how do you manifest and create it in your life? Because for me, I've been on this freedom journey for the last 12 years when I went from corporate America, ad sales bro, to full-time entrepreneur and creator. And freedom is something that I actively create and I'm aware of every single day and every single moment because it's a real thing to me. And a very simple auditing thing would be ask yourself how often you're thinking about or talking about or asking questions about freedom. Because for me, I am looking for creative freedom, financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of relationships, inner freedom, freedom of mind, like so many things. So talk to me about freedom and where that lives in your world.
Yeah, freedom to me, I'm not necessarily after millions and millions of dollars. Like, yes, that would be nice, but freedom to me is really the choice, freedom of choice. So, freedom to choose today that I'm going to work real hard on my project, or freedom that I'm going to take the day off. Freedom that I get to maybe decide that every day I get to dedicate myself to my children, to be there for dinner time, to be there for bedtime, to be there when they wake up in the morning. Freedom to choose which project I'm going to work on, freedom to choose who I want to work with, freedom to choose this podcast, right? To me, that's freedom. Okay. And the only way to get freedom are typically two things. One, you have to figure out a way to build up an income stream that can support your lifestyle. And I think lifestyles kill dreams, right? If you have a very high mortgage and you rent a Mercedes Benz and you have to have the latest Kanye West Balenciaga shirt, and you need to have 100 different streaming services, what you've done is you've built a prison to which you have to work that job in order to sustain your lifestyle. What I challenge people to do is say, how little can you live on? And I mean this as an exercise of, if you put everything you spend money on a budget, remove everything that you absolutely don't need, right? You only need a few things. You need shelter, you need food, you probably need the internet, and maybe you need some other things that have to be in your life, whether you have children or a spouse or something, right? But that's all you really need. But all the other things that we put into our lives are what create us to get trapped into a lifestyle. So you can choose to reduce your lifestyle in order to follow that dream. Maybe you're a painter and you're like, well, I'm not going to make that much money. Great. Can you figure out how to make enough money to live on so that you can choose to do that? So it's a mind shift in all these people are telling you private jets, millions of dollars, the Ferrari, this and that, which actually traps you into having to make more money, as opposed to being able to do the thing you want to do and living a modest lifestyle, right? So that you can choose what you do, where you go, who you interact with. So freedom to me is just simply the choice. Can I spend time with my kids? Can I just paint today? Can I take a nap? I love a good nap, right? That is one of the best things about being an entrepreneur, is choosing when I'm going to work hard and when I'm not going to work hard.
So I'm going to yes and what you said. And one thing that really stood out to me is people are telling you. And to me, that's immediately a throw it in the trash statement, because comparison is the thief of joy. And I agree with everything you said about creating that side of freedom. But I'm someone, and certainly on the coaching side, I'm very big into the mental and the internal freedom of how we create that for ourselves, because so often what limits us from creating the external freedom we want in the world is actually the internal stories that we tell ourselves, which comes from the people or the Instagram posts saying you need to be this, or you need to have this, or you are not enough. And I think about my own journey, and I always smile and laugh because there's a little dancing guy in my head at all times. And I'm cool being a one of one. And actually, I love it because it's such a unique journey. And someone like you, Travis, who comes into my life, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to create with Travis because he's got an equal radiation and frequency that I do. And boom, here we are helping people in this world. And it hurts me so much when the majority of the world does not have this inner peace and this inner freedom. And they're always keeping up with the Joneses, or they're trapped in doing things, whether it's work or relationships or you name it, to where they never see a way out. And for me, that's where my personal growth has always started. And I look back at what created this, and it's literally the first week I was an entrepreneur full time, and I'm sitting there, I'm making $0. I went from multiple six figures to $0 overnight, and it's like, wow. And two things happened that changed my life. Number one, I became self-aware, and number two, I adopted a growth mindset. So I audited the success habits of the most successful people in the world, the people that I aspired to do things like. And I'm like, hey, what are they doing? So boom, this is where I got so into habits, routines, and mindsets. And then when it came to self-awareness, I was like, whoa, everything is on me. And for a lot of people, and I think we learned this during the pandemic when a lot of people worked from home, they said, I can't use that sort of freedom. It's not good for me. But when I was given that freedom, I learned this lesson in the most unique way. So Travis, I'm 26 years old, and this is even before I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm trying to move to Chicago. I'm living in Cincinnati, Ohio. My dream is to move to Chicago. I have a house on the market in the worst time possible. So once the house sells, boom, I'm moving to Chicago. And I get a job at Career Builder. And they're like, yeah, you can work from home until you move to Chicago. Great. And I've never experienced this sort of freedom ever before in my life. So the very first day I'm working from home out of my guest bedroom, it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. And this is early TiVo days. Like right now, DVR is like whatever. Everybody has it like the internet. Back then, TiVo was like an actual brand. Yeah. And I sat there and I was like, I'm going to TiVo a soap opera. Why? Because I can. So I went into the TiVo thing and boom, I went ahead and TiVo'd a soap opera. So fast forward lunchtime and it's now, I don't know, 1 o'clock or so. And I just sat there for a second and I was like, what in the world did you just do? That you're working from home and you've been given this freedom and you're a sales guy who works off commission. So you know if you're going to crush, then it's up to you to put into the work. Yeah. And in that moment, it hit me. I got it. I immediately deleted the soap opera, which I never did watch. And from that moment, I understood that with structure, or as Jocko Willink would say, with discipline comes freedom. And it took 2 hours in being given all the freedom in the world for me to teach myself that lesson. Because where did my mind go first? To something I've never watched a soap opera in my life. So why in the world, the first instance I get, would I be like, you know what? Let's be the lowest common denominator of Rob. But that's what ended up happening. So then you fast forward, 4 or 5 years to me being an entrepreneur. And then the self-awareness got created because I already taught myself that lesson. And then I'm like, well, I can work out whenever I want. I can talk with whoever I want. I can do whatever I want. And that's when the light bulb went off, similar to you saying, hey, at the end of my journey, I want to look and be like, did I build my empire? I was like, I can build my empire, almost like I'm Ron Burgundy. All of a sudden, it went from a question mark to an exclamation point where I'm like, I can build my empire. Oh my God. Boom. World went from black and white to color.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hit on something that's pretty big, which is limiting beliefs. And after coaching hundreds and hundreds of people, most of the time they don't need information. What they need is to remove a blocker that keeps them from thinking they can do, right? It's, information's great. Learning new things is great. But if you're constantly stuck on the train of, I just need to learn this new thing, you're not looking at, and I'm 3 years sober, and I know now that I use alcohol to escape and numb myself, right? And now you can numb yourself with a multitude of things, with TikTok, with food, with soap operas, right? So pay attention to what your numbers are, because typically you're numbing yourself because you don't believe something is possible, right? So again, how bad do you want it? If you hate your boss, how bad do you want to work for yourself? How hard will you work for it, right? And also, how much can you remove the blockers out of your own way? So first of all, anybody could pretty much do anything, right? If you look at the Michael Jordans of the world, he was the first person in practice and the last person out, right? He put in the work. No one put it in for him, right? Now, he needed a team to win those championships, which is also an important lesson. But the fact of the matter is that the blockers that you have internally are given to you from yourself. Most people, yes, some people have been told they'll never be able to do that. I look at that as fuel to show them that they were wrong. But most people that need a coach need a blocker removed. And that's where Rob's talking about this mental peace, this freedom of mind, this freedom of, if you really go out 1,000,000 feet and take a look back, that were on a rock spinning around a star, and they just released that new telescopes footage where there's just like a million galaxies, right? So if you were to fail at something that you tried, in the grand scheme, it's meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless, right? So to not try, to not attempt is actually a bigger failure than having something go down the wrong way. And in my career as an entrepreneur, every time I start a business or a business fails, I learn so much that sets me up for the next business and the next business. And I always think the last thing I've done is going to be my biggest thing. And then I do something bigger because I'm armed with all the information and all the failures so I don't make those mistakes again, right? But that comes from the fearlessness because my 5-year self is fearless. And so when I sit down and go, oh, I'm kind of scared to put this out, I think, what would 5-year Travis do? Well, he's fearless, so he would just put this out. Okay, let's do that. I think about when I'm about to close my computer at night, do one more thing, because that's what 5-year Travis would do. And I'm acting as if I am already to the place I want to be now, as opposed to waiting to get there.
Travis, I love this conversation so much because we are literally two kindred spirits. So when you say most people who need a coach, they need a blocker removed. So we're actually going to circle back to the very beginning of our conversation that says, what is your process for removing the fears, self-limiting beliefs, and judgments that you have, which, oh, by the way, is one of the things that my entire coaching business is based around, because we can replace all of those things that don't serve us with the most powerful version of ourselves. So there are 2 declarations that I speak out loud every single day, and I actually have 32 of them. And you're going to start to see a lot of the content around this because each one of them is very personal for me. And Travis, it's going to resonate for you because one of them is, I am fearless. And I sit there and I think about, and there was a quote from Michael Jordan, and I'm paraphrasing, that said, I have nothing to fear because I know the work that I've put in. And then there's a quote from David Goggins that said, why would you waste a single day being in fear? And then I look at my son who's 10 months old and I'm like, who would I be to be the best parent ever, to live in fear because I am a mirror for him? Boom. I immediately anchor that for me. And then number 2, I am that I believe, because at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, when I saw all the statistics about all the businesses that fail and all the entrepreneurs that fail, I knew there was one thing that would guarantee I am not one of those statistics, and that is my belief. And it is so important that I have 2 tattoos. One of them says the word believe on my forearm. It's a constant reminder that I can do anything that I set my mind to. So every single day I say to myself, I am that I believe. I believe in my dreams. I believe I can do anything that I set my mind to. Success is my duty. I fully believe, and boom, I make that part of who I am. And the reason I have 32 is, imagine going through all the most powerful versions of who you are. Boom, each step of the way. But a lot of those, Travis, are actually me removing the self-limiting version of me and instead creating the powerful version. So I'll give you one last example is, for many people starting out in their entrepreneurial journey, or maybe even now, sales can be challenging to come by. So all of a sudden there's this, where am I getting leads and conversations? So to remove that scarcity and lackness from me, I created the declaration, I am that a conversation with me is a gift, so that every single person I talk to, it is a gift for them. And then I was like, you know what? I am that people meet me and they want to work with me. So not only is me talking with you a gift, Travis, I can now sit there and be like, everyone wants to work with me. Why is that? Because by design, you and I help people and we come from love. And I just wanted to share that because so much of what you are saying, I am living and you are living. And remember, ding, 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 success leaves breadcrumbs. So if you're listening or watching this right now, you don't have to do what Rob and Travis are, but here are 2 people who have created freedom in their life and love being master creators, and all of this is accessible to you if you choose.
Yeah, I love that so much. And, you called me a master creator. I just want to say that like my philosophy is that I'm always getting 1% better, right? So I don't feel like I'm at the top. I don't feel like I'm like this master creator. And I appreciate it because it is a compliment. But I'm trying to get better every day. And if I continually get better every day, maybe one day I'll be a master creator, but I'm just putting out as much valuable content as I can. And, you know, one of the quickest ways that you can remove obstacles is to think about a couple things. First of all, what's the worst possible thing that could happen, right? Now, if you're doing heart surgery, the worst possible thing that could happen is somebody dies. But most of us aren't doing heart surgery. Most of us have a unique gift that we've been given from whoever. I'm not a religious person, but we have an inherent unique gift, and we suppress that because of our lifestyle. So if you're afraid to sell, think of the thing you do as a gift to somebody, right? That they get to be a part of. If you're doing a community, think of it as a party that you're hosting, right? If you just make one shift that you are the beacon and the center and the catalyst of something great, then it's not really selling, it's inviting, right? And if with these small shifts, we can make a huge difference, right? The average person says no 7 times before they say yes. That's why most salespeople fail, is because they give up after number 3 or number 4. If you don't have any fear about someone saying no to you, then you can pitch them forever. But everybody internalizes all this stuff and compares themselves. It's like driving, looking in the rearview mirror. You're not going to get where you want to go by looking around you. You're going to get by where you want to go by looking forward and visualizing the end of where you want to be. So I just challenge everybody to say, what's the worst possible thing that could happen by putting out this video, by pitching this sales script, by, starting this new business that I've always wondered about? Chances are the worst thing that's going to happen is nothing. And you are going to learn something about yourself that is going to catapult you forward. It's going to either give you information or confidence that you didn't have before. So I'm all about just like, my wife tells me all the time, I can't believe how easy it is for you to throw yourself out there. And I always just tell her, I don't care, because I love trying new things. And if somebody is going to try to tear me down for that, then that is simply a reflection of them. Is not a reflection of me. And so instead of looking at what you think where people are reflecting on you, look at your own reflection and be the person you want to be. And whether that is driving the Benz and having the mansion, or having a modest life and being able to be a painter or an artist or a poet, right? It's your life. Your destiny is in your hands. Your 24 hours a day are in your hands. And we choose through freedom. Freedom is here. It's your choice. We choose what we get to do. We choose what we accept as feedback, and we choose where we're going to be today and the next day after.
And Travis, there's one word that you said that resonates so much with me, and it is the word easy. Because as a master creator, this becomes effortless. Why? Because we are coming from a place of love, not resistance, not judgment. Because we are committed. We're obsessed in a good way about good things, about helping people. And Another one of the declarations I speak is, I am in flow. And so often in the world of creatives, we think about flow as time stops, and for 30 minutes or an hour, we're working on something, and man, I was in flow. Well, I've taken that to the next level and said my entire life is in flow, because we can choose to take on that perspective, because these are all internal stories that we tell ourselves. So if you start stacking these mindsets with these actions and doing the things that you love, it's going to become effortless for you. And people are like, man, it looks so easy for you. Well, why is it easy? Because I love doing it. And that to me is the pinnacle of freedom. It's the pinnacle of being a master creator, because you can look at the world and self-create the world into anything that you want. And that's why we create one-of-one mindsets. And that's what you and I both help people do, is create these lenses and perspectives of the world that serve them more, because so much is not serving them. So let's remove the stuff that does not serve you. Let's put in all of what serves you. Doesn't mean that every day is puppy dogs and rainbows, but you've got the tools and the processes and the mindsets that say when obstacles and challenges or failures happen, that you're equipped, you're going to learn from them because you've got a growth mindset. I can always make this better. Oh, wow. I really love my life. Wait, I love every single day. I love every single moment, AKA best year ever, because that's the name of this podcast, because this is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a way of being. So for everybody listening and watching right now, I hope this conversation inspires you, because both Travis and I have accessed this. It's taken some time and some inner work, but all of this is accessible to you. So reach out to either of us if there's anything that we said that resonates with you, because both of us truly want to help you on your journey.
Absolutely. I got 2 requests for your audience, Rob. The first one is that no one realizes how much work goes into a podcast like this. And, you have to schedule guests, you have to line up the tech, you have to clear your schedule, you have to do research. And one of the best things that you can do for a creator like Rob or any podcaster is to simply leave a heartfelt review. Okay. Reviews make the world go round for a podcaster. So if you enjoyed this conversation or any conversation on this podcast, go leave a 5-star review and actually write something that shifted your mindset. And the second thing is an easy exercise that you can do today. If you're not happy where you are, and if you're looking for your next chapter in your career, is to think about 3 things. 1, what do people ask you for help with or tell you do that looks easy? 2, what activity do you lose time when you're doing, right? If you're painting and you're like 3 hours flies by, what activity do you do that you lose track of time? And then 3, what would you do for free? What would you do for no pay? What activity or service or job or what would you create even if you didn't get paid? Chances are there's a theme in there, and that is the direction you should go, because you can't swim upstream, right? I hate spreadsheets. If somebody offered me a job doing spreadsheets, I would say, absolutely not. I'm not your guy, because that's not where I lose track of time, people tell me I'm good at, or I would do for free, right? So if you're looking for that clue, because like Rob said, success leaves clues. People ask you for help all the time. You lose track all the time. And there's something that you would do absolutely for free. That's probably the direction you should head in the next chapter of your life.
And I will yes and that. And I have an action item. And one of the mantras for me this year has been impress yourself. So I would like you, in the name of creation, doing what you love, freedom, maybe even failing and doing something you're not really comfortable with. I would love for you to impress yourself. And when you do, let Travis and I know, because it's a very unique concept, because we, as people, typically don't want to allow our egos to come out and say, look at what I did. But you know who is my biggest champion and Travis's biggest champion? Ourselves. So if you constantly do things that impress yourself and you're like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. Well, maybe I'm just going to keep pushing the envelope. You can hit me up on all social media platforms at Rob Cressy. You can head to robcressy.com. Travis, where can everybody connect with you?
Yeah, my favorite platform is Instagram. So find me on Instagram at Travis Brown. I respond to all my DMs. I love meeting new people, and I share a new side hustle almost every day that you could start pretty quickly to build your own empire. And Rob, I just got to say, like, you're a great guy. You're a diamond in the rough. I love what you're doing, and I love the message that you bring to everybody. I just want to remind everybody, like, there is nothing special about me. I am not educated. I had a 1.9 grade point average in high school. I am not handsome. I do not have a business degree, but I am willing to put myself out there and to go for what I want. And I know Rob has a similar background, and this is possible for you. This is we are not special. Right? The only special thing that we have is that we do believe in ourselves, and we're unwilling to stop at the goals we want to hit, because we cannot fail.